series has been intense. The hashtag Surviving R. Kelly tweeted over 900,000 times. And later today, a rally to support the alleged victims.
Yeah, joining us now is Cook County State's Attorney Kim Foxx. Thank you for being here.
Ms. Foxx, we have to ask you, how many calls have you gotten since your press conference yesterday?
In less than 24 hours, we've had numerous phone calls.
And what happens when somebody calls?
So someone calls, tells us, what information they have, whether they're a witness or whether there's something that has happened to them. We then put them in touch with someone from our office, either through victim witness or through our investigations unit.
Right. Now, you have seen the docuseries.
I have.
And what are your initial thoughts?
I watched the series as someone who has lived in Chicago my whole adult life, worked at the state's attorney's office during the original trial. So it wasn't that some of the allegations were new related to pre-2008, but watching and listening to the women who said that they were survivors of what happened, it was heartbreaking, it was sickening. And again, these are allegations, and that is why it's important that we recognize that this is not, we don't have an open investigation because of the docuseries, but if there were people who have been impacted or affected, we certainly believe that we should know about that and do an investigation if warranted.
Right.
Is there a statute of limitations here in terms of people calling you? From what years would this be active?
Yeah, so we haven't put a time limit on when people can call because the statute of limitation will vary based on when the incidents happen. Again, we just saw in that docuseries, so it was 6 hours, that may not be representative of everything that we know. And so people have to call us first, and then we can go back and look and see what appropriate statute applies. But anywhere from 3 years to upwards of 25 years.
Yeah, and this is something that has really hit home for you because you are a survivor of sexual assault.
Yeah, someone had asked me a while ago about mentioning the fact that I was a sexual assault survivor when I was running for this office. And I think it was really important to me then and especially now because I understand what it feels like to not feel comfortable telling. I hear from a lot of people who are saying, well, where have they been? Why haven't they said anything? And the nature of abuse, I didn't talk about my abuse for years. When I was assaulted by 2 strangers, I didn't call the police. I was afraid. I thought it was my fault. Right. And so when I see what's happening, and I know that sexual assault and abuse is severely underreported because victims don't feel like they can come forward, I feel like it's my duty to say as a prosecutor, I understand that. That doesn't diminish your credibility. That's the nature of this work. And so I am, a fierce advocate for making sure that we give space for that, but also that we do this right. These are allegations, and Mr. Kelly has the right to have these allegations fully vetted. He should not be assumed to be guilty without those allegations being vetted, but we cannot know what we have heard and not do our due diligence to see if something's there.
Right. Having that been said, if these alleged victims come forward, can they keep anonymity? How much of this is public? And that's a big concern there.
That is the concern. I mean, if these cases were to go to trial, the Constitution affords a defendant the right to confront their accuser. So this isn't something that you can do with the behind closed doors. And I think what we saw in 2008 is that fear, right? We were talking about a young girl. What does it do for her life if 10 years later someone remembers you as the girl from the video, or someone remembers you as this person? And so that's the struggle. But we cannot do an effective prosecution or an investigation if people aren't willing to come forward, even with that loss of anonymity.
Can people come forward criminally if they've already accepted a civil resolution to this with an accuser or with an accused like R. Kelly?
No. The civil lawsuits have nothing to do with the pursuit of criminal charges.
So if they've been paid by whoever it is.
That does not preclude the charges on criminal charges. The charges are levied on behalf of the people of the state of Illinois. And so the people of the state of Illinois have not received payment if someone has a settlement. That is taken up in the criminal court.
Right. So with R. Kelly being acquitted in 2008, do you think it's going to be tough for people to come forward now, knowing that he's already been acquitted once, and we watched that very public trial? Do you think people are truly going to come forward now?
You know, I think again, he had his day in court. He was acquitted, and we saw what happened with that. I think the disheartening part of the docuseries was post-2008. And I think we're at a time now when we're talking about sexual violence, when we're talking about what it means and the impact that it has on survivors in this era of Me Too, where there is survivors are coming out together. It's very isolating. When something like this happens to you, you feel like you're in it alone. And I think the level of support that survivors have seen, we've talked a lot about the support that Mr. Kelly has received and others, but there's survivors who are being supported. So I have a level of optimism that people will feel as though they will have the opportunity to be heard and their dignity intact.
Right. You talk about the supporters of R. Kelly, and there's been the online report saying that his music is streaming incredibly high right now. Yeah. And radio stations still playing his music. Are you surprised by that? Are you offended by that?
I'm not surprised. I have stepped in the name of love. We all have. I'm looking at you, Val. I know that
every wedding, graduation, birthday party, it's an anthem in the community.
It's an anthem, and I think it is really difficult. There's a real cognitive dissonance of listening to music that is so part of the fabric of who you are and the culture, and separating from the man. And so I'll hear, well, what about Elvis, or what about Jerry Lee Lewis, and what about, art? Well, how do you separate the music from the art? And so I understand that dissonance. I grew up listening to 90s rap, and there were lyrics that were in there that I would sing and rap, that now in my more tender age, say, I can't believe I was listening to that. And so I make no judgment of people who are trying to figure out where they are with the art. That's hard, and I don't pretend that it hasn't been hard for me as well.
So what are the next steps for you in the state's attorney's office? Because you said you got numerous calls last night. Yeah. Like, realistically, once you've done the investigation, how soon could we see something happen?
I don't know, Val. Again, it depends on the nature of the information that we get. We have to vet for its credibility. What we will not do is file charges that are not appropriate in the name of doing something for appeasing a public who wants something. And so, that's not how our system works. We have to be fair. And so it's hard to say. What I can say is our sexual assault and domestic violence unit is one of the top units in the country. We have dedicated men and women who decided to work in this area to give their expertise to making sure that these cases are handled fairly. And so I don't know what the outcome will be. What I can assure is that we have the best and brightest men and women of the Cook County State's Attorney's Office working on this.
Thank you so much for being here, Ms. Foxx.
Thank you.
All right. Definitely want to thank Ms. Foxx for being here. Again, the number to call if you have any information, 773-674-6492.